Okay, today we're going to start 91. Hey, Amar Marzutra. You see that? Mishmeder Papa. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. Discuss about learning. Some English immediately. The real sukkah. Let's go. Okay. We'll learn on Yom Tov. Is that okay? We'll learn davening is at 10, we'll learn at 9. What about the guys who got the early minute? They probably have an early minute. They'll learn at 9. So, okay. Where will we learn? Yeah. Hopefully, if we're able to, we'll learn it. Okay, so the Gemara starts like this. Amar Marzutra Shmeder of Papa. Marzutra says in the name of Rav Papa, Hilchas, the halacha is achas b'chayav achas b'meisi yishlan kesubos binyan dichrin, b'ksuba nasas meisi l'chaver. Two statements. Remember, we had a discussion about Reuven marries, let's say, Leah, and then Leah passes away. And then he marries Rachel, and then Reuven passes away. So Leah has sons that wanted to collect the mother's dowry. Now, the problem is that Rachel has sons that want to collect, but Rachel herself, Rachel herself wants to collect the ksuba, or let's say the sons want to collect the ksuba. So what we said was like this. There was a little bit of an issue, although we said that the truth is that first they pay off the ksuba, and then before they split the rest of the property equally, Leah's sons come in and say, we'll get the dowry, and if there's anything left, we'll split the rest equally. The problem with that is that Rachel's sons are coming with a claim for inheriting our mother. Our mother's belongs to our mother. Leah's sons are coming with the claim saying we're inheriting. Okay, but let's say Rachel now passed away. Leah's sons come and claim that we're inheriting from our father. Because the ksuba is a direct, first goes to the mother, and then they inherit from the mother. The binyan dichrin dowry goes from the mother to the father, and it gets inherited from the father. So Rachel's sons are going to tell to Leah's son, we just got from our mother. We didn't get anything from the father yet. Oh, but you come in and take the whole father. You tell everything from the father. So that's not fair. So we should, in such a case, we should not have ksubas binyan dichrin, because one passed away before, one passed away afterwards. That's going to create fights. Before we start, we took what we were supposed to get. Now let's divide the father stuff. Not you take everything. Depends on when the father passed. Yeah, it would depend on when the father is, right. Actually. Yeah, so the second wife gets the ksuba. And then, but the fact that the other children can come in, Leah's children take everything before they divide up the inheritance. So that's Rachel's children can complain about. It's going to create a fight. They just took everything. Well, the halacha is not like that. That's what we're learning right now. That the halacha is that Leah's children take the dowry, even though Rachel's children did not get the father's inheritance, they only got the mother's inheritance. Another point here that Marzutra is saying is that in order to do this, that the dowry goes first to the sons of that wife and not divided equally, and then only of the first one, and then we'll divide up the inheritance equally. That's only if we can only say both of those things if there is an inheritance afterwards to divide up. Now over here, there is no inheritance to divide up afterwards. And the Gemara is saying, that don't worry about it, because the ksuba that they took is considered like an inheritance. It's considered like it's divided up, but the only thing is we have to pay it first to the creditor, which is Rachel and her children. So we have to pay them, but it's as if it was really an inheritance here. So those are the two statements that he says. Yeah. Yeah. Here we said the husband, calling the husband Reuben. Right. Right. But when he dies, then it goes to the children. And Leah's children. Okay. Just it goes to India, then back. Okay. Mara now asks a question. It's complicating things. I mean, we got the two halachas, but the Gemara now says, why do you have to tell me both of these halachas? If you told me one of them, that would be enough. That's what the Gemara does now. Okay. So it goes like this. Bishlam Yashmin and Achas Bechayev Achas B'Maisi Yishlam Ksubas Binin Dichen B'Leishmin Ksub Benasis Maisa Lachaber Tavia Mina Ika Maisa Dinar in Ilai. If it would just tell me the first halacha that Achas Bechayev Achas B'Maisi, Leah passed away while Reuben was alive. Rachel passes away after Reuben passes away later. There, and I would say that this Yishlam Ksubas Binin Dichen. Then I would think that maybe the ksuba is not considered like the inheritance, and I still need a real meiser dinar. I still need an extra inheritance at the end for this to take place. Okay, and the biblical inheritance always has to be in effect in order to do this other type of inheritance. Ella l'shamina ksuba nasas meiser lachaverta v'nayadinim shem dachas b'chayev achas b'meiser. If you would just tell me that the ksuba itself is considered the meiser, the extra inheritance, the meiser dinar, then I would know that I'm dealing with the case of one is alive and one passed away before and one passed away afterwards. And I would say yeshnam ksuba spinning different. Look, if they're both alive, so then the husband passes away. The value of his other half. If they, let's say, what would happen like this? Let's say they both pass away while he's alive, then there's no ksuba, and there's automatically no ksuba because they don't get a ksuba if they pass away first. Right? It's only if the husband passes away, then the wife would collect the ksuba. If the children don't show up and say, "Give me my mother's ksuba," that's only if the husband passed away, the mother didn't collect the ksuba, then the children show up and say, "Give me my mother's ksuba." Right. But when we're talking over here about achas b'chayev, achas b'maisai, when we're talking about nasa maisis lachaverta, I hear what you're saying. That let's say there's not enough left over. Oh, because there's no ksuba. So that's what I'm saying. So it has to be one was alive and one wasn't alive. Now let's say they both passed away after he died. So both of them are going to take their ksubas. Right. The husband. And there's two wives. They both take their ksubas. And then what about the binyan different? So what I need, I would still have the halacha of meiser. Is the ksuba considered meiser? I'm not sure what the Gemara means over here, that it automatically needs to be achas b'chayiv, achas b'maisi, because let's say the husband passed away first. I get it the other, it can't be the other way, because then there's no ksuba. Okay, so the Gemara says, if it would say that, I could have thought that there still is a way of getting one of these halachas in without the other one, if it would have only said one. How would that work? If it would say, that the ksuba is considered the additional payment, the additional inheritance. One second. So I would automatically know that the rule of binyan different applies when one passes away when he's alive and one passes away after the death. I would automatically know that. So why does it have to say it? The answer is because I could have thought that the ksuba is going to a third party in that case. That there's a third wife. And that third wife doesn't have sons that are binyan, doesn't have sons. It doesn't have any inheritance at all, actually, just daughters. So you would pay up that ksuba, and then what am I left with? Shtayim b'chayav. Two that are still alive. The one that passed away after the husband is only getting the ksuba. That's the one with the daughter. Two alive. And what would I say? That in that case, I would say that there is no. In that case, I would say that there is ksuba binyan different. Let's read a drop further. But if one passed away while he was alive and one passed away afterwards, I could have thought that maybe I don't say that this Kesubos binyan different, because you have to look at it again like this: that Rachel's children are going to be upset with Leah's children because Rachel's children never inherited any of the father's inheritance, any of Reuben's inheritance, because all they got was just the mother's ksuba. And now they're going to be upset that Leah's children took the whole Kesubos binyan different. They took everything from the father and they never divided the father's property. So we'd say in that case, you don't get the Kesubos binyan different, and you just divide everything equally, 50-50, and drop that dowry story, because else there's going to be a fight. So it means to fight. They're going to fight. Where would we accept the ksuba nases meiser was when the ksuba was in a situation where they weren't able to claim any inheritance anyway, because there were only daughters there. That's when I would say it. But maybe in a case where it's achas b'chayiv achas meiser, I wouldn't say it. So it has to tell me both halachas. All inherit equally, and there would be no Kesubos binyan different. There would be no. The whole halacha of the dowry going to the thing in the family is only for the son. That's what we're discussing here. Does the dowry go to the sons when it's going to leave out? When that's going to knock away everyone else from inheriting? The daughters would get, but not the dowry. It would just get divided equally. No. Right.
Any different from the other rules, creditors, forgetting about the sons. Basic rules of creditors collected from the estate of the deceased. They come first. If there's nothing that they'll for sons or daughters, it doesn't matter. Creditors get to be first.
That's what it seems, right?
That's where we have
Right.
we have this issue because of the son.
But we're really talking about here, not the biblical right of sons. Now we're talking about the rabbinic enactment that people, to encourage people to give a dowry for their daughter, so that they should, this money should stay in the family. Are we going to apply that in a case when it's going to knock away we're trying to, the rabbis were trying to help out the situation, not to mess it up. Now we're coming out with a fight at the end because of this enactment, not necessarily did they do that.
But at the end of the day, that's just crap.
Right. The only thing is, we've been calling it throughout this time, Kesubos being different as an inheritance, not as a credit. The type of inheritance. And why were we saying that? Because they can't take away that property from people that have bought it and all of that. It's a regular inheritance. If that property is not there, they can't claim that they came first. Okay. This Mishnah, we already know most of it because the Gemara has been discussing it as if we hadn't read it at the beginning. Misha Hayanasi Shtei Nashim, someone that was married to two wives, so Mesu, and they died. Bachakach Mesu. And then the husband dies. So what can they claim now? Not the ksuba, but they can claim the dowry. The assignment of action ksuba siman, and the orphans are claiming the dowry. There's only enough for both dowries. One of them, let's say, was 1,000, and one of them was 500. He passes away with $1,500. So there isn't a cent more than to pay up the two dowries for the children. This wife has sons, and they're each claiming their mother's dowry. The mothers had passed away already. They want the money that came from the grandfather, went to this husband, which is their father. Now they want it back because they each have separate mothers. But there's only exactly that amount. So the rule is cholkim b'shava. They do not divide it by 1,000 and 500. They divide it by 750 each, because the biblical law of inheritance is that you divide the inheritance equally. It doesn't matter this wife, that wife, right? You don't prioritize the wife that he loves over the one that he doesn't. There's something like that. Okay. Let's say there is one coin more than both dowries, 1,501. So Elonaitim Ksubasiman, this one takes 1,000. Elonaitim Ksubasiman, this one takes 500. And then what do you do with the rest? And you divide up that last coin equally. They get to divide. They get to do the mitzvah of Yerusha with the parents' tribe. The orphans can say like this: our father's property is only worth $1,500, but don't worry about it, because we're willing to pay more for it. What happens now? There's a coin left over. Which orphans are going to say this? The ones that have the $1,000 investment in it. So what are they going to do? They're going to increase the price of it by, what's the price? The price is the market price. How much is someone willing to pay for it? So they'll increase that price, and they'll say, look, I'm willing to pay for it more. That way they'll get the extra, they'll get the extra. No, that's right. No, cholkim b'shava. Forget about the ksuba. There's no ksuba here. The wives died before the husband. So cholkim b'shava means that there's an inheritance. Inheritance get divided. If there's extra, then they're going to divide the dowry. Imamri Yisrael Menachem, okay. Ain't Shemanam, you don't listen to them. El Shamanas Nechasim Bebezdin. We evaluated in Bezdin. Hayusham Nechasim okay, next case. Hayusham Nechasim Berai in a Maksik. Really, what's going on now is that Reuben's father, Yaakov, is still alive. He's a wealthy man. Reuben passes away. He has 2 wives with the dowries. Reuben just has, his father didn't support him. Reuben just has exactly the amount of the 2 dowries, and it's getting divided equally. Because if you don't have any extra money, you can't divide it that way. He doesn't have any other assets. Nothing. Nothing. So together with all of that, that's what he has, the dowries. So therefore, you have to divide the dowries equally. Not the dowries, you divide the estate. There's no dowry here anymore. Just divide the estate equally. But one of them is claiming, what are you talking about? The grandfather is going to pass away. That money is going to come to, it's going to come to the deceased, and then it's going to come through the deceased. It's going to come to us. There is more money here. It just didn't come yet. But let's see, he just passed away, and now it's coming. So there's extra money. We want to divide the dowry. First, let's divide the dowry. Separate the dowry. So the halacha is that hayisham nechasim b'roi, potential money. Eina kibamachzik is not like real money. It's just potential money. That doesn't count. Shimon Aimer, Shimon says, we had this before earlier. Says in Apil yesham nechasim shein lamachrayas eina klum. Even if there is property, personality, that's nothing. You need realty more than the ksubas, not personality, not movable object. Okay. Tana Rabbanan stood in a brisa. Lazu elef lazu chamish meyas. This one has 1,000 and as the dowry, and this one has 500 as a dowry. And yeshem meiser dinar, if there is an extra coin, elu neitzon ksubasiman, veil neitzon ksubasiman, v'imlav yichalka b'shaveh. If not, they have to divide it equally. There's an extra coin, they can take the dowries and then they divide that extra coin equally. There has to be some mitzvah of Yerusha being as the Torah prescribes. Interesting question coming up. Shita, start off with something that we think is obvious. Merubin ben Ismaitu. When he passed away, he had property that was worth a lot of money. More than the dowries. Okay? That means when he passes away, they should get the dowry and divide what's remaining. The only problem is, by the time they settled all of that stuff and they're going to come to divide it up and all of that, Nismaya too, the property isn't worth the same amount. It's worth just the amount of the dowries. But not actually ending up getting the prescribed inheritance of the Torah. Sometimes it gets mixed up. I think it's personal thing. It's just a value. Looking back, it's my look up. Yeah, it's supposed to have glossary of this. Where's that glossary? Oh, okay. Not the background. Let's do not playing this to the notes. Oh, maybe background. Let's do background. Looking back to see this. 158. Okay. One of the clauses of marriage can be that if the wife predeceased her husband and does not collect the marriage settlement, the son's born of the marriage will inherit the mother's marriage settlement addition to the share of this thing. She receives as part of, it doesn't tell me what it is, the property that her father gave as a dowry. Had the marriage concerned male should not existed, the dowry would have been inherited by her husband, been divided equally. Okay, it's not telling me how it works exactly.
But those notes the same as what's in the reference guide.
Probably. Okay. So we're saying you see what the inheritors already inherited the dowry. It's too late. The rabbinic enactment of the inheritance of the dowry kicks in immediately on the death, even though they didn't actually get it into their bank accounts. But the status of it is already theoretically divided. And then the property gets worth less and they don't end up dividing, it's too late. Now the Gemara asks the other way. But let's say it wasn't enough. But then the property got worth more. And now there is extra. So should the rabbinic enactment of the Kesubos Daf kick in now afterwards? After his death. Tashema. So come and listen. The Nichse, the Bay Bartzitzer, Moten V'Nisrabah. We actually have a direct case, a precedent where this happened. It was not worth enough to cover both dowries plus, and then later on it got worth more. So Vasal Kamid Rav Amram, they came in front of Rav Amram. Amralahu Zilu Paisinu got worth more. So what happened originally? They divided it equally. The Rav Amram says now that it's worth more, they had 1,000 and you have 500 and you have 750. Now you were only supposed to get 500. Go give them the 250 to make theirs 1,000. Now there's more than enough. So if there's more than enough, so then you see originally it was 1,500. So because it was exactly 1,500, it divided 750. Now there's 2,000, let's say. So he says, so first give them 1,000 and you take 500. We have to redivide that first thing because we can do the Kesubos different. One was worth 1,000, one was 500. So give them back the 250. And we're going to have another 500 left over. That will divide equally. But first they get 1,000. They're going to end up with 1,250. They're going to end up with 750. Yeah. After it's from the other 500. That's it. That's a problem. This is what Rav Amram said. Amalahu, they didn't want to give back. Amalahu, I'm gonna hit you with a thorn that doesn't let out blood. That means, according to Rashi, that they're going to be put in Kherim. I'm not sure how that expression means. But it means you're going to be in trouble. Well, Shadrino l'kamei Rav Nachman. Shadrino, what does that mean? That they sent? They sent. Oh, he sent them in front of Rav Nachman. Amalahan, he said to them, just like if it would have been more and then it got worth less. Zachu behen yarshin. The inheritors already, the property is already divided. What? And the property was depreciated. So the inheritors already acquired the Kesubos different when it was higher, when the property was at a higher value. And now it's too late. We don't say that they have to be divided equally. So too, when it was a little bit and it was divided equally, it's too late. Basically, that's the idea, that it's too late. In both cases, it's too late. This one is to the advantage of the one that had less of a dowry. Over there was an advantage to the one that had more of a dowry, but it's too late. That's the way Rashi learns. Tosfos learns exactly the opposite. Right. Right. That wouldn't that would be clear that however you take it, that once it's divided, and that would be how it was divided here. What we're talking about is only if he has a certain amount of money is it divided in this fashion. If he doesn't have that amount of money, then it's divided differently. And so when he passed away, it was one status, and then when it comes to dividing it, it's a different status. Now that's where it gets like a tax bracket. Was a t-shirt, something about if you think living is expensive.
I'm trying to have rolls back. Donate.
Yeah. Right. Right. Now wills get complicated halakhically because the Torah already prescribes something. The halakhic giving word, like or similar type of.
Yeah. Raw. So they get some. Public keep my raw. Someone who's on a deathbed. So I'm going to give all these gifts here and there, and my kids get nothing bad.
I don't see it. Yeah. Who Gavra? You ready? Who Gavra? There was a fellow that Maskabe Alpi Zuzi that he owed. They had creditors of 1,000 zuz. Well, Havalu Trey, I skipped the Simon Elef Meya Mitzvah, Kesubos Daf. That's just to be the cases, mnemonic for the cases that are coming up. Okay, so the first case over here is that there was a fellow that Maskabe Alpi Zuzi. Havalu Trey Apadni. He had creditors of 1,000 zuz, but he has two. Apadni is like a palace. He has two. How do they translate it there? Two mansions. Zavinu chada b'chamish meya, v'chada b'chamish meya. He sold them, each one for 500. Okay, what's the problem? He owes $1,000, but he didn't pay. He's not paying that $1,000 that he just earned. Well, asabal chayv tarfa l'chada minaya. The creditor comes and goes to the purchaser and says, you bought a property with a lien on it, and he takes the property away from the purchaser. Now, how much was that property? He repossesses that property. How much was that property? It was 500. He still has another one. So, he's going to take the other one, the other property. Well, Shako Alpha Zuzi, the lekeach, the purchaser, takes 1,000 zuz. Just money. Goes to the creditor. If you're willing to settle with the first palace and say that it's worth 1,000, consider it as 1,000, then good. Then I'll be quiet over here. The Eli, and if you don't want to take the first palace, the first mansion, and consider it 1,000, so shakal alfi zuzi, then take these 1,000 and give me back the first one as well. He wants the property, so he's getting rid of him with this offer of either settle with the first one as 1,000 or take the cash. Well, Sava Rami Bar Chama Lameimar Hainu Masnisim. What is he doing over here? Rami Bar Chama says he's doing what we said in the Mishnah you weren't allowed to do. The orphan said over there, that we're willing to increase the value of our father's property, consider it more valuable. Why? Because they wanted him to have more money so that they should be able to divide the dowry separately. And they get the 1,000, and the other one will only get the 500 if he has that extra money. So they wanted to increase the value. So what's this person doing right now? He's increasing the value. He's the purchaser. He bought it for cheap. He bought it for 500, but he's saying that now it's worth 1,000. That's what he's saying. At least to me, it's worth 1,000. So now, if you want to take it, so then consider it 1,000, and otherwise take this 1,000. Amalei Rava says him back. Now, so Rami Bar Chama was saying that you weren't allowed to do that. In other words, you'll see in a minute how this plays out. It's very interesting. Amalei Rava Midami, how can you compare this to the Mishnah? Hasam Isli Pseida Liasmi, Achim Isli Pseida, Alpha Yar, Alpha Shakel. Over there, the other inheritors were losing out when they increased the value. Over here, how much did he lend? 1,000 zuz. How much is he getting? 1,000 zuz. He's not losing out. It's a nice offer. Well, he maybe wants the mansion. Well, what he's doing here is this guy is ready to take away. He's ready to take away both mansions. He doesn't want to lose both mansions. So he's willing to pay the money to get rid of him, or let him settle with just one. Rami Bar Chama was saying that you can't do this. He's not giving him any offer. That's not an offer. He bought it for 1,000, and that means that he bought them both for 1,000. That means that he could take it for 1,000. That's where's the money coming from? From, let's call him Ruvain, owed the money. All right. So Shimon is showing up with pay me the money. So Levi is the guy that bought Levi is the Lekeah. He bought the property, and Shimon's coming to Levi, pay me the money, but the money's coming from Ruvain. Now Ruvain really only got 1,000 for both properties. The Levi feels that he's getting, when he takes both properties, he's taking the money from Ruvain. All right. But Shimon's saying, Shimon's saying that he's taking the money from Ruvain. Shimon was the guy the creditor, and Levi's saying that no, but to me it's worth more. Okay. The Tirfa Bekama Kasvina. The Gemara asks, when Levi goes back to Ruvain, and he says, Shimon, the property that you sold me, two houses that you sold me, Shimon came in and confiscated them. Now I want you to pay me. Now, this is very interesting. It turns out that Shimon only confiscated one, according to Rava, because he gave him that offer. He either considered that 1,000, or I'll pay the 1,000. He considered 1,000, confiscated one. So Levi goes back to Ruvain and he says, they confiscated one property. I want the money back. Now, he's not actually saying I want the money back. He's saying that property has a value of $1,000 that I just paid to Shimon for you. I'd like for you to pay me that $1,000. Or Ruvain's going to claim, it says, I'm not paying you 1,000. You paid 500. I'm giving you 500. No. Ruvain owes Shimon $1,000. Levi is the purchaser of Ruvain's two houses. Shimon confiscates one of them for 1,000 that has $1,000. Levi had only paid 1,000 for both of them. So Levi goes back to Reuben and said, I just freed you up from a debt of $1,000. I'd like you to pay me. And Reuben says, no, I'm just going to give you back the money for what money. So that's a classic court case. Oh, yeah. Could be. So, Ravina Merbesa Machlekes. Well, Reuben didn't pay.
I'm the one who got the house. Got both.
Yeah.
But the one who took the house.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Why should we give it?
He wants the house.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Why should he agree to the proposal? Why should the one who took it from the locale agree to the proposal? But if anything, he took the house, he's got it.
Well, he's trying to get the second one. And the person is telling him, I'm willing to pay the whole thing. Or just settle with that. So Ravina Amar Ba'alfa. Ravina says that Levi, the Lekeach, the purchaser, gets $1,000 because he paid off Reuven's debt. And Rav Avi Amar B'Chamishmei. Rav Avi says, no, I know he paid off Reuven's debt of $1,000, but he only gets reimbursed for what he spent, which is only $500. The rule is that he only gets reimbursed. He just gets the $500.
And I would say and
Oh, and then no, he has the value only of the house, not the different. Right. Not how much it will be. Oh, right.
These things happened like immediately after one another, or was there a time in between, or doesn't matter?
I don't know if that would matter. Would it matter in other law?
I would think that for sure it would be different in American law, just because inflation and the prices change so much in real estate. Like you buy something from 5 years ago, it's already gonna there's gonna be a big price difference.
So what about the reimbursement? Does the person get reimbursed? Or does he get reimbursed for what he paid, or does he get reimbursed for what he saved the seller?
Well, you have title insurance, right? These things nowadays don't really come to this because the title insurance would take care of it. I don't know.
Yeah. He says you have title insurance, so it would never really play out practically. That's why they do the title insurance. But let's say someone wants to buy without the title insurance. Can you? Yes, you can. Okay, next case.
Title insurance protects against extracting from the locale,
Right.
but it doesn't affect the fundamental issue here that things can go up and down in value.
Right. Here it seems the question is, when he's coming back, does he get what type of reimbursement does he get? Okay, there was someone that he owed only 100 zuz. Last one was 1,000, right? Havalu trei ktini dari, had two small pieces of property. One he sold for 50, another one he sold for 50. The creditor comes and wants to take one of them away. Now he's coming to take the next one away. So he takes 100 zuz. He goes to the creditor. If you're willing to settle with the first one that it has the value of 100, then good. Otherwise, take this cash and go and give me back the properties. So Rabbi Yosef doesn't have the patience to spell it out. It's exactly the same as we just said, etc. Rabbi Yosef thought to say that that's what our Mishnah says. Amalei Abaya, Midami, Hasim Islay Pseid Liasmi, Acham Pseid Islay, Meya Shakel. He's not losing out. If he wants, he could take the 100. That's what he lent. Okay. Tierfer Bekama Kasvina, and how much when Levi goes back and he says, he took away one of the small fields. How much can he reclaim? Can he claim from Ruvain? So Ravina Amar b'Meir, Rav Aviam b'Chamshin, same machlekes. V'ilchus b'Chamshin, Allah he just gets reimbursed for what he paid. Who Gavra Davi Maski b'Meir zuz? There was a person that owed 100 zuz. Shachir passed away. Shava Katina Dara Davi Shava Chamshin zuz. He left over a property that was worth 50 zuz. This is a little different. Asa Balchayiv the Katarafle. The Balchayiv takes the property from the orphan. Azal Yasmi, the orphans went. Yavulei Chamishim Zuz. They bought the property back. Okay. When they bought it back, they gave him 50 zuz. And they bought the property back. How the Qatar place, so he took it again. Now what does he have? 50 zuz plus the property, which is what they owed him, 100. Also, Kamida Abaya. Come to Abaya. Amalahem mitzvah lisem lefrei chayvavim. Hani kamay mitzvah disu. Okay, you did a mitzvah. What's the shaila over here?
Is the property. Once it's sold, get it done. If it wasn't back, it's done. They would have
No, because that.
Here's the question: could they go back and say it's a property? If they went ahead,
No, but because if they buy other property, it's not meshubit to the
exactly
new property. It's not
therefore, they're
meshubit.
saying now they put it in.
Oh, is that the pshat, Daniel? That's how you have? They're saying they bought a new property and they can't collect it.
Just so happen that it depends on this person.
I couldn't hear everything, but how when they give the 50 zuz, they take the land back.
Right.
Right. And
Okay.
that's why.
So do they want to consider that land as a new property, and the new properties can't be collected by the that's what's going on over here. So what Abai is saying is that actually when you gave that money, you weren't actually buying the property. You were paying the other 50, and the property sort of remains by him. Right. The orphans get money. Basically, when they gave him the 50, he just took them 50, and he says, "Okay, thank you for the other part of the loan." Hanikamai mitzvah disa, you did a mitzvah. Hashtaki tarif bedinka tarif, and what he's taking was his originally. However, that's only because they didn't tell him clearly that this is for the purchase of the property. They just gave him the 50, thinking that was that he would understand that it was for the property. But if they would say clearly that it's for the property, then they would take the property back, and then that would be it. Right? It must be right. Okay. Who Gavra? The Zavna looks busted the ime b'tevasana. someone sells his mother's ksuba, and this is like a risk sort of sale. That's why. His mother is married to this fellow. Now, if his mother passes away before this fellow, then the mother doesn't have a ksuba. But if the fellow passes away before the mother, then the mother's going to end up with a ksuba. If this fellow, not this fellow, I have to make names now. Let's say his mother's married to Yaakov, and this guy's name is Reuven. If Reuven passes away before his mother, Reuven's the child, then he obviously doesn't inherit the mother's ksuba. But yeah, normally the mother, the older generation. But what happened here is there's two risks here. One is that his mother may pass away before Yaakov, and then there's no ksuba. And the other risk is that he may pass away before his mother, and the sale to this fellow is not going to play out. So he sold his mother's ksuba, but there's two things that have to come into place in order for this fellow, let's call him Shimon, to be able to actually get this ksuba. So he sold it with tevasana. Tevasana just means small amount of money because he doesn't know if he's really going to get it. There's a risk here. Amarle, he says, if my mother refuses this arrangement, I'm not going to reimburse you for this tevasana that you're giving. He's paying, I don't know, $20 for a potential of 1,000. But there's two things. He says also, I'm not going to reimburse you the $20 if my mother disagrees with this whole thing. Well, what happened was, Shchiva Eme Le'ira. The mother died, but she didn't protest against it. So he comes and says, look, I'm the proxy of my mother, and I, on her behalf, are rejecting this arrangement that I made. So, Savar Rami Bar Chama Lameimar, Yubamakamikai. Rami Bar Chama says, yeah, he's now like the proxy of his mother, and he's rejecting it. Amalei Rava, so Rava says, Nida Achrayas Bidole Kibbalale, Achrayas Bidemi like Kabul. It's possible to say, I can't take responsibility for what my mother's going to say, but he's got to take responsibility for what he's going to say.
It wouldn't just be like ourselves or from somebody. Then he forgives the debt.
When he forgives the debt, the person comes back to him and asks for the money. He just makes it complicated, but he can actually come back and claim the money. If man de doin dina de garmi, right? They can come back and claim the money. Well, Amarami Bachama, Reuven Shemachasad l'Shimon Shlei Bachrayas. Look at this case. Reuven sells the field to Shimon, and he takes no responsibility if it gets taken away by creditors. Shimon sells it back to Reuven, and he does take responsibility from creditors. So if Shimon had a creditor, and Reuven just bought it, the creditors will take it from Reuven, and Reuven will go back to Shimon and say, the field that you sold me was taken away, and I want the money back.
Why did the creditors come in?
Reuven, Shimon borrowed money after he bought it. Now that he has a property, now people are willing to lend him. So he borrows money, sells the field. Now he has two amounts of money. He needed to start a business. He buys the field, he gets a huge loan, and then he sells the field. Now the field gets confiscated from the person, right? Well, the Asa Balchayv the Reuven, the Katarif Lemine. It wasn't the way we thought it would play out. That Shimon's creditors come and take it away. It was Reuven's creditors that come and take it away from Reuven. Because it used to be Reuven. It doesn't matter, it's Reuven's now. No, Reuven owns it. So Reuven goes back to Shimon. Dinahu the Azal Shimon. Omaftzilai. Shimon, the rule is that Shimon has to go and reimburse him because Shimon took responsibility. And now creditors came. Amalei Rabba says, Nida achrayas da alma kabbalei, achrayas da nafshemi kabbalei. Shimon never took responsibility from Reuben's own creditors. He only took responsibility from his creditors. That makes sense, right? Rava would agree, but Reuben shiar sadami Yaakov. Reuben inherited a field from Yaakov. Umachal Shimon, and he sells it to Shimon. Shalei b'achrayas, without any guarantee. Also Shimon umachal Reuben, Shimon sells it back to Reuben b'achrayas with the guarantee. Also balchayv the Yaakov v'katarif leminei. Not a balchayv of Reuben, a balchayv of a creditor of Yaakov, the one that Reuben got it from, comes and takes it away from Reuben. Now Dino Dazel Shimon Amaptzilei. Now Shimon has to reimburse him. Because it wasn't Yaakov himself, it wasn't Reuven himself, it was where Reuven got it from, even though it came through Reuven to Shimon and then back to Reuven, but it came from a prior debt that my timer. What's the reason for this? Well, Balchev the Yaakov, Balchev the Almadami. That's like an outside debt that comes in that Shimon took responsibility for when he sold it. Okay. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama says, Reuven Shemachasad Shimon. This feels more like Bava Metzia, Bava Basra. This is not a Kesubos discussion. Whatever. Well,
but, this is very real. This is something some of those disciples learned about temple sacrifices. No one was talking ever saw one.
Right.
This
is everyday stuff. Reuven Shemachasad Shimon Bachrayas. Reuven sells a field to Shimon, and he takes the responsibility with a guarantee. Shimon didn't pay. He says, I owe you the money. He bought it. He doesn't pay for it. Now, Reuven, if someone takes it away, Reuven is going to have to reimburse Shimon for money that he never paid yet. Okay. Mace Reuven. Reuven passes away. Also, Balchayv the Reuven Qatar Flame Shimon. Reuven sold it, but Shimon didn't pay. Shimon says, I owe you, it's a mortgage. No. And now, but there's a guarantee on it. Reuven guaranteed the sale. That anyone, the title insurance, if anyone comes and takes it away, I'm going to reimburse it. But he just didn't pay yet. So they would call it even. But what happens now is that Reuven passes away. What's wrong?
Just like
So, also Balchayv the Reuven, the Qatar Flame Shimon. Reuven's creditor comes and takes the property away from Shimon. Now, Shimon doesn't let that happen. Paisi Bezuzah. Shimon instead, the money that he was going to pay to Reuven, because he never paid Reuven for it, he goes and he pays the creditor. He keeps the property. It's a good deal, right? He paid instead of losing the property. He paid for it. Dino Damale B'nai Reuven. The rule is that the B'nai Reuven are going to say, "Anan mitaltale shavak avuch kaban." our father left personalty by you, which means a debt, that money, he left it in your possessions. And that personalty doesn't have a lien on it to the Baal Chayv, to the creditor. So you still owe us money for the property. You never paid us for the property. The fact that you paid that debt, that's something we would not have to pay that because we don't have any money. We don't have any real estate. Maybe we have money. We don't have real estate. And the creditor would only have been able to take away real estate, which we wouldn't have had to give. The personalty, they don't. The orphans don't have to pay. The personalty, they don't have to pay what's real. Now, this fellow Shimon that just paid up the debt, the orphans are saying that was the wrong person. That money was supposed to come to us. See what he could have done. What would have happened is let's say he would have let him take the property. Then he would have come to collect and said, okay, well, now we're even. He would have come back to Reuben. Now we're even. Now the orphans are saying you still owe us. Amar Rabba ipikeach idach. If this person is a smart guy, migvi lehu nalei ara. He should pay them with property. V'hada gavla minayu. And then take the property back from them. Why? He owed the property, he owed money to the orphans, right? But instead of giving money, he pays them in property. Now the rule is, according to Rav Nachman, is that if they owe someone else money, so the new property that they acquire, if not that they acquire new property, but if they're paid property as the repayment of a loan, another creditor can come and take that property away because that was really the father, right? So what he's saying is that he should be able to go to collect the debt that he paid with the property that he paid them with, that he paid them back. There's two debts of him. He owed money for the property. He pays that with property. And then they owe him money for paying up the debt. He goes and takes the property back that he gave them. Okay. Amar Rabba says, Reuben Shemacher Kol Sadeis of Shimon. Let's say Reuben sells everything that he has to Shimon. Everything. All his property. Shimon sells off one property to Levi. There's three types of properties in the Gemara. There's Idias, Baininus, and Ziburis. The best quality, the intermediate, and then the lower. Right. So Levi, in this case, bought the Baininus. Now the rule is that when there are three properties, someone owns three types of property. The Baal Chayv, the creditor, when he comes to collect, he collects from Baininus, collects from the middle. That's exactly the one that Levi bought. Reuven sold everything to Shimon. Shimon sells one to Levi. Levi bought the wrong one, the one that would go to a creditor. Well, what's the Baal Chayv to Reuven? Baal Chayv of Reuven comes, the creditor of Reuven, one that there was a lien on his properties. The truth is that he can take from Idius from Shimon, the best from Shimon. He could take the Zeburis also if you want. And he can take the Baininus from Levi, whichever one he wants. V'lo Amran, we only say this, El the Zavna Baininus. If Levi was the one that purchased, what's the Nekudas on Zavna? Zavna? What do you have there? Zabna. Zabna means that he bought. I can never tell the difference between sold or bought. Come on, I can't know. Zabna means bought, and Zoban means to sell. Right. I just can't tell the difference between bought and buy and sell. There is a difference in the vowels, but I don't know. Okay.
Oh, no, it's
The comma. Oh, and the dog. So there's Zavna Idius Viziburis, but if he would have bought the other two types of fields, Matziyamale, you could tell the creditor, I was careful what I bought. I bought the two that you don't get. So that should be acceptable. But and even if he did buy Baininus, the average type of field, that would only apply that the creditor could come and take it away from Levi if Levi did not leave any Baininus, any mid-intermediate quality property by Shimon. But if he bought only one property and the worth of equal property by Shimon, then he's going to say, I left property by you to collect from. Hashem for this Tosfos, we can hopefully finish the daf. Right, he takes over the page. Amar Abaya says, Reuven shemach chesed l'Shimon b'achrayis. Reuven sells Shimon a field with achrayis, which means with a guarantee. Well, takes it away. A creditor comes and takes it away from Shimon. Dino dazel Reuven amaftile. Reuven can come to the creditor and to reimburse him, to pay up the loan instead of taking the property. The creditor can't say, I'm not dealing with you anymore. I'm taking care of, I got the property, I'm dealing only with Shimon. Mishum da Amarle, because Reuven says, no. The mafkes minei alai hadar. I know when you take it away from him, he's going to come back to me. You're still involved in this. And as you can't say, I'm not, you're out of the case. Reuven has to reimburse Shimon, but he's trying to go now to reimburse the creditor so that Shimon doesn't have any claim on it. Right.
our price is even less acceptable. His off-price so
Achrayas on real estate is assumed. Yeah, that's a machlekes price to safer. It's not in. So umaftzile doesn't necessarily mean to actually pay him. It could mean also he can come to bring him to court to make him swear that he wasn't paid back and all of that. He can deal with him. Now the creditor says, you're out of the case. I got where to take it from. Don't bother me. It's not true because he's not out of the case because he's going to come back to him to collect it. Okay. There's some that say even if there is no achrayas. Even if there's no guarantee. I don't want to be enemies with Shimon. So even if Shimon cannot come and make a real monetary claim, but he still doesn't want to be on his bad side. Amar Abaya, Reuven shemach chesed l'Shimon achrayas v'yotzo. Okay, this would be a typical classic case. Reuven sells the field to Shimon, without any guarantee. And now, all Shimon has from this field is just everyone's coming and claiming. Everyone's just coming and saying that's not your field, it's my field, and it's just a problem. It's like this is a nightmare. So actually, if he doesn't make, we're talking about where he didn't give the money yet, but he didn't take acquisition of it yet either. But once he took acquisition of it, then you can't get it back. Even though you didn't pay, you just owe the money. Oh, that's the Gemara's going to ask. Because he could tell him, he tells him, look, you bought a bag of nuts. That means like the mystery package, mystery box in the Chinese auction. You don't know what you're getting. This is what you bought. You bought this. You don't know what's. That's what you took. But when is considered the chazaka where he can't retract, when he walks along the borders, that's considered like he's the owner. He took that stroll around. Does dayash mean to just walk? How do they translate dayash? Walks the boundaries of the field. Even if he took responsibility. Yeah. That means that it's his. That little walk means that he's taking ownership. That's what an owner does. He behaves like an owner. Now he inspected it after he bought it. That's considered like his first. Oh, I see what you're saying. He behaved like an owner. The Kenyan over here, you can't actually lift up property. How do you acquire it? You behave like an owner. You take a beach chair and you sit down over there. That's the owner. You take a shovel, you start digging. You're the owner. That is put the tumah in some other non-Jewish stores. Drop it off somewhere. So Ikadamri there, those that say Afila Bachayis Nami, even if the person took responsibility, he still can't go back to him and say, look, you took responsibility, so I don't want this field anymore. Why? Because the person can tell him, wait, when they take it away, when they confiscate it from you, I'll pay you. Meanwhile, they didn't confiscate it. So you deal with all the tzaras, all the claims and all of that. And if they end up taking it away, then I'll but yeah, even if he does guarantee, but if he's only going to pay for it at the end, then taking away. Okay, let's leave it over here.